Studio Green Room, we have Mallory O'Connor. The name of the book that we're featuring on the Author's Corner, The Kitchen and the Studio, a memoir of food and art. And this book is a memoir, really, of her life with John O'Connor, life together as artists and teachers, and it really is special. And I have to tell you, after we had a conversation before this interview was going to take place, it made me start to rearrange how I was doing cooking with my husband. And it's become a lot of fun. I have to tell you that. And that's just within the span of a week or two. So Mallory, thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
What is it that, well, first of all, I mean, this is a memoir, a love story, all of that. And, you know, John being an artist and you an art historian. So before we dive into more of the meat of the book, so to speak, tell me about John, meeting John, and how you knew this was kismet.
Well, I can start when I went to the University of California at Davis as a freshman. And about the first or second day that I got there, I was walking through the hall of the art building, and I glanced into one of the studios, and I saw a young man who was next to the window, and he was drawing. And he was so intent on what he was doing that I had to stop and watch him for a minute. And the concentration was just so amazing. And I thought, there's a real artist. I want to be like that. Well, then imagine my surprise the next day when I went to my first drawing class with Wayne Thiebaud, Drawing 101. And lo and behold, that same student that I had seen in drawing in the class the day before was the graduate assistant in Wayne's drawing class. Oh, a grad student, I said. Oh, my. And I got to know him then over the course of that semester. And it was really wonderful because one of the things that we did is that we just started talking. We started talking then, and, you know, it's 61 years later, and we're still talking. And one of our great joys has always been talking about things that we're passionate about, that we love and that we're interested in. And those things brought us together. It was we discovered that we both loved classical music, and we both loved art, and we both loved food and good wine and cooking. And those were just all things that we kept finding out that we had in common. So it was really wonderful. I described him in my diary as being kind of shy, with sandy hair and bright blue eyes, very serious, but with a sly, quick sense of humor that is absolutely enchanting. I think I was already hooked.
You're already hooked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And then in this book, you have over 100 recipes from the collection that the two of you have put together. Tell us why you wrote the book.
Well, we had been, let's start with my journal. I have always kept diaries, and I have 9 binders full of diaries from my thoughts and ideas and whatever I was doing over the years. But one journal, one diary is very significant, and that is one that I started to keep right away, really, when John and I first got together. And that was a diary of our experiences with food and entertaining together. And so starting in 1962, before we were even married, I started noting down special occasions, anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, friends over for dinner, whatever it was. I kept track of where we were, who was there, what the menu was, what wine we selected, and the recipes that went with it. And now I have 60-some years later, this huge book full of information about all of these special occasions. And I really have been diligent about tracking them and saying what was special, what worked, what wasn't quite as up to where I wanted it. What did John cook? Because we've always shared cooking ventures together. And what did I cook and where the recipes came from? And that became the template for the cookbook. So when we got an opportunity, which was actually when COVID hit, and we were kind of self isolating for a couple of years, we said, oh, finally, we have a chance to go back and look at this book and see what all these things were and make some sense of it and get it organized and just make that the template for this memoir, cookbook, love story that we want to, first of all, remember ourselves and then share with anybody who's interested.
And I love that because, like I said, you can pick it up anywhere. You get the story behind the meal, which is very cool. And then you can make the meal. So there is something so special about that. And I asked you this with all of these moments, and you think of the 60 years, all of that. There has to be a few that you really, really remember that stand out. Give us one of those moments.
How about if I start with the first one?
Yeah.
Because on the cover of the cookbook is John's painting that he did of what he cooked for me on our first date. He asked me to come over for dinner, and he cooked dinner for me, and it was wonderful. And afterward, I said, essentially, this is it. Don't let this one get away. So it's a beautiful crab Louis, and that has been a specialty that he's continued throughout our lives together. And in fact, every May 18th, which was the date of that first date, we celebrate by having a crab Louis. So that's the sort of, besides our wedding anniversary, that's our other anniversary, the first date anniversary, which proved to be really, really significant. And it's when we really decided we wanted to be together.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that what a great memory that is. Crab Louie, I love it. You talk about how you break it down. You talk about Tallahassee. You talk about Christmas brunch. You talk about Saturday dinner. You talk about Gainesville, Florida, and autumn dinner. You talk about Athens, Ohio, where I went to school. Holiday dinner for four, dinner with friends and colleagues. It is so neat to walk through this. What's it like for you and John once it was all put together, even though, of course, you had all the contents? Was it, I don't know, neat's not the right word, but what did it feel like when this book came together and you could actually hold it in your hand?
Well, we really loved it. And putting it together, we were able to go back and revisit all of these times and places and the friends and the family and people that we knew that are gone now and people that are still here. And so it was a wonderful way to put our memories together and also to make every one of those memories a celebration. We moved around a lot. We started out in California, both in the Sacramento area. John was a city boy. He lived downtown. And I was a country girl. I lived out in Carmichael on a little ranch in the foothills of the Sierras. And then we went from there to both of us meeting at Davis. And then John was hired away before he even finished his master's degree to teach at the University of California, Santa Barbara. So off we went to Santa Barbara, which was a grand adventure. And I'll have to tell you a quick funny story about that. Because John got this job, we didn't see that coming. They just called him up and said, we have an opening. Would you like to come and join our faculty? And he was like, yeah. So I called my mother up and said, oh, Mom, John and I want to get married next Friday. I'm an only child, so this was her only opportunity. But she just went bananas. But she pulled off a wonderful little wedding at home, on a week's notice. And so we got married on a Friday. And John's best man was a wonderful friend of ours, Michael Fong. And the next day, we went to San Francisco and John was best man at Mike's wedding. So that was a wonderful sort of startup of that. And then on Monday we drove to Santa Barbara, and the next day John started teaching. So
Wow.
we had this sort of whirlwind of activity. My mother said, "Oh, you're not going to have a honeymoon?" And I said, "Mom, we're moving to Santa Barbara. I mean, how much more honeymoon can you ask for?" So that was wonderful. And then we just tracked all the different places. From there, we went to Mexico. From Mexico, we went to Ohio. Then from Ohio, we moved to Florida. And then we've made little forays outside of Florida several times, but came back here. This was our home ground. So,
Wow.
and everywhere we've gone, we've met new friends and kept old ones, and they've visited us. And so we do special dinners for them and have special occasions for the family. It's just been a way to, I guess you might say, I've kind of tracked my life on the basis of these events and these opportunities to get together with friends and family and celebrate and remember them fondly.
Mm. Perfect place to end this. It's an amazing journey and book. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. The Kitchen and the Studio, a memoir of food and art. Mallory O'Connor and John O'Connor. Very, very exciting and good recipes. I'm trying crab, Louie. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Thank you so much.
All right, certainly. Thank you.
Visit us at www.greatwritersmedia.com. Email us at info@greatwritersmedia.com or call us at +1 877 556